Hi, I'm Andy Kinder, and today you join me at the fabulous Glebe complex here in Leicestershire on a rather blustery summer's day, I might add. But summer means one thing and one thing only. It's all about margin fishing. Margin fishing amasses some massive weights throughout the country, not just here at Glebe, but on every commercial fishery in the country. And I'm going to explain to you today how I do my bit of margin fishing, and hopefully it'll increase your margin fishing into catching a lot more fish when you're out on the banks and catching some of these massive carp, which are now not only here at Glebe, but on, like I say, every commercial venue across the country. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn around on my box, I'm going to get my rig in, and while I'm fishing, I'm just going to explain to you a few little tips, a few little wrinkles, bit about bait, bit about tackle, and what to do, and you know, what baits and everything to get the best from your peg. So let's get on with it, shall we? Right, now first thing I am going to say about margins is sometimes the fish will come really close to you. Sometimes they'll, dependent on the venue, sometimes the fish will come really close to you. You can catch them on top kits in certain places. But ideally, when I am fishing a margin, I like to give myself a little bit of room between me and where I am fishing. It gives the fish a bit more confidence, and it just encourages them to feed a lot quicker and a lot easier. So yeah, I think, you know, if you can fish a power kit and a couple of sections, or you know, even further, like today we're fishing up to or down the side of the bank, should we say. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Sometimes you have to work your way through these small fish, small perch. Every childhood angler's first fish, but it's all about the continuity of bait and keeping a little bit of bait going in and getting them fish used to bait falling in the peg. You know, if we get them used to bait falling in the peg, we stand a better chance of catching them. They lose all their inhibitions, you know, bait falling in and around them. They want to eat bait. They want to eat bait, so it's like, you know, it proper turns them on. I'm sure we've all seen a lot of the underwater films, what's out there, and you can see how fish get turned on by bait, literally falling past them. So that's what I'm looking at doing. But the one thing about margins, and which I will tell you at this stage, you know, it can happen very late in a match fishing scenario when these fish have been caught and then they're coming in late on to proper feed up towards your end of your match. But you know, you pleasure guys out there, you know, there's not to stop you dropping a little bit of bait in straight away, start of your session, because the banks are empty, there's nobody about, and them fish will gladly come in a lot quicker than when we're in a match situation, should we say. But they're not quite settled in peggers yet, but we've not really been feeding it a long time, should we say. But like I said, the key thing is getting them used to bait falling in. I can't emphasize that enough. The only place where that would here we go. The only place where that would differ is if the fish were substantially bigger. And by that, I'm meaning double figure fish. The double figure fish become a lot warier to catch, a lot harder, and sometimes you have to wait a lot longer for a bite. So sometimes it's a case of setting a trap, but this is what I'm actually doing here. I'm setting a trap where I put a little bit of bait in, I've dropped my rig in over the top of that bait, and I'm setting a trap to catch one fish at a time. Yes, there might be a, there we go, there might be a big volume of fish coming to the peg, but that were a perfect example of what I was wanting to do. I've dropped a bit of bait in, the bait's dropped in, I've positioned my rig straight over my rig. Just let this fish do what it wants. I've set my rig up over that ground bait, and yeah, I've got a quick clean bite. And here we are, playing a fish. Wind's a bit naughty today, I might add. Oh, here we go, look at that. This is what margin fishing's all about. What an absolute creature. Oh, yes. As the saying goes, we probably not get much change out of £10 on that one. So let's put him back like that. What an absolute beauty. Right then, let's talk about the business end of the gear we're using today. Elastic wise, Trico 1518. Here it is, look. It's strong, it's reliable, it's stretchy, it powers up quick, and it's, for me, it's the perfect margin elastic. Two strains which I use the 1518 and also the 1820. Now I know it sounds gruesome, I know it sounds strong, an 1820 elastic, but like some of these fish what we're catching now, they're well into double figures, so you want to be able to put them fish under control quite quickly. 1518 today helps make them fish, they power away, and yeah, I can pull them back on the pullet. So there's my two elastics which I'm using. Like I said, my go-to elastics for any type of margin fishing. Line wise, I take no prisoners when it comes to margin fishing. MVR rig mono 0.22. If I want to put an hook length on, I can do. I can put like an 0.20s hook length onto it if I want that, just that little bit more finesse and a bit smaller fish. But if I'm looking for a big weight, I'm looking for a big weight quickly, 0.22, it's my go-to. I use it straight through on my rig, straight through to the hook, and I know it's just not going to let me down. Float wise, we've got the Reality Series 2 pole float. Love these pole floats for margin fishing. And I've got one here on my tray. You can see it's quite a short float, but it's got a real thick bristle top. If I'm fishing baits like double worm or double comb, big bunches of baits, I've got that like visible tip, and I'm getting a bit older, so I can see it quite easily. I can read my line bites with that. Fantastic float for that game. Rig wise, I fish a relatively light float here at the Glebe, and on some venues you'll need a lighter float, some venues you'll need an heavier float. But here at Glebe, I think a lot of the bites, they come as soon as your float settles up, it's into position, you fed that bait on top with your pot, and it goes straight under. So they're watching that bait as it's falling, hence why I'm fishing a 0.3 float. And when it comes to a shotting pattern, I've got 4 number 9 shots, literally 6 inches from my hook. They're spaced out roughly an inch apart, and it just gives that nice little bit of a fall towards the bottom end of the lake where I'm looking to catch these fish. Hook wise, again, it's a size 12, it's a power carp hook. There we have them. That's a size 10 in there, but it's a size 12 I use, and I've got 4 and 5 6 maggots on there. It's plenty enough for what we're going to catch today. But you know, if I were looking for really big fish, I'd put up to 10 maggots on there, but 5 maggots just absolutely nails them properly on here. And there's my rigs. So without any further ado, we'll go down there, bit more baiting, and see if we can catch one. Alright, so I've positioned that bait. I'm on that flat spot. I've got a lovely shadow where, here we go, I can position that bait every time. I know it's on a flat area. And I can be, you know, I can be ultra confident. I know when I'm putting my bait in, it's in the right area. You know, your bait literally will get wafted about everywhere when these fish are feeding confidently like they are now. It's going to get blown everywhere, which is why we're setting a trap every single time when we go in with that little bit of bait. Not a massive fish, but here we go. Nailed perfect. It is, look. 4-pound fish. Ground bait and maggots are the ultimate in margin baits for me. If I can get them, if I can get ground bait and maggots to work, it's my number one choice in what I'm doing. And this is normally a mix what I use for a lot of my margin fishing, especially here at the Glebe. And you can see I've got a mixture of ground bait in there and a few dead maggots. And what I tend to do, I'll get my mixed ground bait, I'll put it into my tub here. This takes roughly about 3 pints of ground bait. I'll then put some maggots into it. Now, some days the fish will want more maggots than what you can put in, but I'll roughly put half a pint of maggots into that mix. So every time I pick up a ball of bait like that, you can see there's a few maggots literally getting in for them fish to feed on. The ground bait's going to be attracting the fish into the peg because of its cloud and its smell and things like that, but it's the maggots what they want to eat. So in theory, the ground bait is to attract them, the maggots are what they want to eat, but I wouldn't say I'm starving them onto the hook, but I'm making them look round for them maggots. And by doing that, you're just encouraging more and more fish into your peg, because they get more and more frustrated and angry looking round for them maggots. And when you go in, I'm going to put a bunch of maggots on here. When you actually go in with that bunch of maggots on your hook, it's just like the cherry on top of the cake, what they're going to pick up. There you go. See, you've got a nice bunch of 5 maggots on there. Then all I'm going to do then, I'm going to do a little ball like that. You can see there's a few maggots in that ball. Into my pot. And it's like I said, right at the very start of this film, the edges are relatively deep here at Glebe, and we're into 3 foot of water here. So I'm wanting that bait to get a good halfway down before it breaks up, releases all them maggots. There's my bunch of maggots right in among all that bait what I've put in, and hopefully it's not long before we get a bite and we're attached to another angry carp. But it's all about that bait. It's all about that bait falling through the water. It's attracting fish into your peg all the time. But not too many maggots. Too many maggots, sometimes it can send them wappy, but there's other days when you need to feed more maggots to encourage more fish to come into your peg. But unfortunately, I can't tell you that on film. You've got to work that one out for yourself. days they want very few maggots and more ground bait, and other days they want less ground bait and a lot more maggots. So indication straight away. And if I get 2 or 3 indications, or I get a lot of fish like moving about in the peg, and it's literally blown that trap, what I've just put in with that ground bait, feed it again. Here we go, that'll be on. So I had a couple of indications before I hooked that fish. If I'd have had another indication then not hooked a fish, would have been feeding it again. We've got the puller here, look, gradually tease it in. Another little tip for you guys when you're margin fishing, you know, any type of fishing really. You ain't got to go mad with your puller kits, you've not got to literally strip it 100 mile an hour. I just gradually tease it in, like that, if I can. Puts more and more tension on the fish, and it gradually comes towards you. A lot easier. Gather a bit when I can. Here we go, coming towards me, look. Flip it up, and in. Nice fish. Ooh. Perfectly hooked, bottom lip. Active, I know that much. Get him bite. Right, let's get some more bait on, and while we're fishing I'll give you a full recap on what we've done, how we've done it, how we've fed it to get the best out of any margin peg on any commercial throughout the country. So right, let's just get these maggots on. So straight away I've got 4 or 5 maggots on. What you will have seen by my maggots, guys, I do like mixed maggots, like reds, whites. I'm not bothered if there's a few yellows or discos or whatever in there. I do like a mixed maggot. I've literally got that ball of bait in there. We can literally position that rig with accuracy because we've lined it up on a marker. I've got a fantastic shadow in my peg, really where I want to feed it. There it is, look, in that shadow. So when we first came down this morning, we plumbed up, we found that nice little flat bit, and the flat bit is, yeah, it's a couple of foot on this peg, which is beautiful really. You couldn't ask for a better table really. 4 or 5 big pots to start with of the mix what I've used. I put them right in at the very start, and then literally after letting them settle for 10 minutes, I've fed it consistently with a little nugget of ground bait. You feed them in the big pot until you start fishing, and then it's a case of feeding them with my kinder pot what I've got on here, and feed for a bite. Feed for a bite literally. There we go, there's the bite. They're absolutely lined up now. Every bite's clean, every bite's positive. We've got them feeding confidently. Like I was saying to you, you know, sometimes people see them down the edges and they're quick to react and go on them. Don't feed them, make them confident, make them positive, where they want to be happy. If they're happy, you'll catch them quicker. You know, constantly keep putting that little bit of bait in. Just keep Just keep flicking it in with that kinder pot. Them maggots on your hook, get them competing for them maggots. You'll foul out less fish. And then it's just basically an eat, sleep, repeat. Right till end of your match. And you know, massive weights can be achieved on this, especially towards end of your match. By getting your feeding right, your rigs right, your presentation. A big weight's achievable. Perfectly up here, proper on it now. I'll hold him up for you. Not the biggest of fish, but proper weight builder. Here he is. £5 anybody's money. But you catch a £5 every 4 or 5 minutes for the last hour and a half of your matches, you're going to be on to a proper weight, and it's going to win you some brown envelopes at the end of the day. So there you have it, guys. There you have it, guys. A few little tips, a few little tricks, a few little wrinkles to hopefully make your margin fishing better. Like I said, it's all about staying confident. It's all about being focused in what you're doing. Spend a little bit of time plumbing up. You don't always have to fish tight to the bank. Look for that nice little flat spot. Look for that nice, perfect area where them fish are going to come up from the deeper water. That nice little flat spot. They'll feed every bit better there than sometimes right close up the bank. Not always, not every venue. Every venue differs, but a carp's a carp, and they all feed very much the same. And then it's down to bait, whatever you're confident in using. Ground bait and maggots are my forte, absolutely love them, but there's no to stop me putting a worm over the top or even corn if I'm getting pestered with little fish. So hope you've enjoyed our little soiree. I certainly have. It's been absolutely brilliant here at Glebe. Never fails to deliver when it comes to catching a few fish. So until next time, guys, try the few tricks out. Summer's well upon us, and we've got a good few months of margin fishing left behind us. So until next time, tight lines.